Undercover boss works at his own company, can't believe a pregnant employee struggling and sleeping in her car. He thought it was just another late shift, until he walked past the far end of the parking lot. There, in a beat-up sedan, barely visible under a flickering light, was a pregnant woman, curled up in the back seat, wrapped in a blanket, shivering, alone. She worked at the company. She had smiled that morning, said she was fine, but no one knew she was sleeping in her car. That night would change everything, because the truth he was about to uncover inside that building was darker than he ever imagined. 30 years ago, Elliot Harris was just a grease-covered mechanic with calloused hands and a broken-down garage on the edge of town. He didn't have investors. He didn't have a college degree. What he had was grit. Back then, he'd fix delivery vans during the day and sleep in the office at night, dreaming of building something that mattered, something honest. He didn't want to be rich. He just wanted to create a place where people could work hard, be treated fairly, and go home proud. Fast forward to today, Elliot's 61 now, slower on the knees but sharp as ever. He's the founder and CEO of Harris Tech Distribution, one of the top logistics companies in America. Over 4,000 employees, contracts with tech giants, a fleet of trucks delivering everywhere from Seattle to Savannah. But success came with a price. As the company grew, Elliot stepped back, hired managers, built layers of leadership, and somewhere in that process, something changed. Lately, his inbox was filled with things that didn't sit right: anonymous complaints, resignation emails, stories of warehouse workers crying in the break room, people leaving after just a few months. The company he built to feel like a family now felt cold, mechanical, corporate. Elliot couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was wrong, and he knew he'd never find the truth from the corner office. So he did what he hadn't done in decades. He got his hands dirty. He shaved his beard, put on a janitor's uniform, left his name off the schedule, and walked into his own warehouse hub in Ohio, alone. No security, no special treatment. To them, he was just the quiet old guy mopping the floor. But to Elliot, this was his home, and he was about to find out what really happened inside it. From the moment Elliot stepped into the warehouse, he could feel it: the tension, the coldness, the judgment. The floor manager didn't even glance at him before tossing a filthy mop his way. "Hey, old man," he smirked, barely hiding the mockery in his voice. "Try not to fall asleep while you're working. This ain't a nursing home." A couple of the younger guys laughed. One muttered something under his breath as he passed Elliot in the hallway. "Must have run out of retirement checks." Elliot just nodded, quietly gripping the mop handle. He felt his throat tighten, but he swallowed it. This was his company once, a place where every worker mattered. Now, he was invisible. He mopped the hallways, scrubbed the bathrooms, picked up greasy sandwich wrappers from the corners of the break room, and the whole time, not a single person asked his name. No "how are you?" No welcome. Just silence, snickers, and the occasional barked order. "You missed a spot back there," one supervisor snapped without looking up from his phone. Elliot forced a nod. "Yes, sir," he said softly. And yet the worst part wasn't how they treated him. It was what he heard when they thought he wasn't listening. Two workers near the loading dock were talking while pretending to rearrange boxes. "That new girl's pregnant, right? What's she doing here?" "Beats me. She's slow as hell. She'll get herself fired before the baby even shows." They laughed. Elliot didn't. In another corner, a young guy vented to a colleague. "I've been busting my ass here for months, man. No raise, no thanks, not even a decent share in the break room. Just keep quiet and don't complain, right?" The older worker next to him scoffed. "This place used to care. Now it's just numbers. They don't see people anymore." Elliot paused, hand trembling slightly as he clutched the mop. That sentence hit him like a punch to the gut. They don't see people anymore. He built this company so people could be seen, respected, given second chances, just like he once needed. And now, they were being crushed by the very system he created. He looked down at his reflection in the wet tile floor. A janitor's face stared back, but inside something was waking up. The old fire. The man who built Harris Tech from a rusted-out garage. He didn't come here for sympathy. He came to save something that mattered. and he wasn't going to stop, not after what he saw next. Craig Wilkins, the regional hub manager, ran the warehouse like it was his personal kingdom, and everyone else was disposable. He didn't motivate, he intimidated. Didn't coach, just commanded. From the break room to the loading dock, his voice echoed through the building like a siren of fear. "Move faster! This isn't daycare! You screw up, you're gone!" Elliot watched from the corner, pushing his mop quietly, pretending not to hear. But he was listening, and boiling inside. Craig didn't see employees. He saw units, replaceable bodies. And every time he barked at someone, Elliot saw heads lower, shoulders shrink. The warehouse felt less like a workplace, more like a prison. Then came the moment that broke Elliot's heart. It was just after lunch. The warehouse floor was humming with activity, but Craig's voice cut through everything. "You're late, again." Elliot looked up and saw a young woman, Mariah, 26, wearing a high-vis vest over a stretched-out hoodie, one hand on her lower back, the other cradling her stomach. She was 5 months pregnant, clearly exhausted, clearly trying. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice soft. "I had to stop and lie down for a few minutes. I wasn't feeling—" Craig cut her off, waving her explanation away like it disgusted him. "Don't use your pregnancy as an excuse. You want special treatment? Stay home." Mariah blinked, stunned. A few employees nearby turned, uncomfortable but silent. "We need people who can pull their weight," Craig continued. "Not dead weight dragging us down." The words hit her like a slap. Mariah stood there, swallowing her pain. Her chin trembled. Her hand instinctively went to her belly as if to protect her child from the shame. "Yes, sir," she whispered, blinking hard to hold back tears. She turned and walked away, arms wrapped around herself, each step heavier than the last. Elliot stood frozen, gripping his mop so hard his knuckles turned white. He wanted to scream, to throw the mop down and fire Craig on the spot. But he couldn't. Not yet. Not until he saw it all. Not until he knew how deep this rot had spread. And that night, when Elliot stayed late to mop the lobby, he noticed something outside that nearly brought him to his knees. It was almost 10 p.m. The warehouse had gone quiet, the fluorescent lights buzzing in the empty halls. Elliot had stayed late, pretending to clean the front lobby, but really, he couldn't shake what he'd seen that afternoon. Craig's cruelty toward Mariah echoed in his mind like a broken alarm, loud, sharp, and impossible to ignore. The night air outside was cool as Elliot stepped out to dump the last bag of trash. But then, in the far corner of the employee parking lot, he saw something. A small sedan, old, dented, parked in the shadows. The windows were fogged, and the back seat was stuffed with clothes, a baby bag, and a worn-out blanket. As he got closer, he froze. Inside, curled up in the driver's seat, was Mariah. She was sleeping, or trying to. Her head leaned against the window, one arm wrapped protectively over her stomach. The hoodie she wore earlier was now folded under her back like a pillow. Elliot's throat tightened. This wasn't just about a bad boss or a cold culture anymore. This was survival. She wasn't just exhausted. She was homeless, pregnant, alone, and still showing up for work like nothing was wrong. He stood there in silence, unsure whether to knock or walk away. But then Mariah stirred. Her eyes fluttered open and met his. At first fear, then shame. She quickly sat up, rubbing her eyes, trying to hide the truth that was already so visible. "Sorry," she mumbled through the window. "I'm just resting between shifts. I'll move. I know I shouldn't be here overnight." Elliot shook his head slowly, voice soft and broken. "You shouldn't be sleeping in a car. Not like this. Not alone." Mariah looked down, biting her lip. Her voice cracked. "It's just temporary. I'll get a place. I had one, but the rent went up and..." She sighed. "It's fine. Really, I'm used to it." Elliot had heard enough. He had come undercover to find out what was wrong with his company. But this wasn't just wrong. This was unforgivable. He nodded quietly. "Mariah, don't worry. Things are about to change." She blinked, confused. "How do you know my name?" But Elliot just gave her a small, sad smile, then turned and walked into the building, with a storm behind his eyes and a decision already made. The next morning, the entire staff was called into the break room. Craig stood smugly at the front, arms crossed, eyes scanning the tired faces like a drill sergeant preparing for war. "New policy," he announced coldly. "Any employee who's late more than twice this month, terminated. No exceptions." A heavy silence fell across the room. Then from the back, a voice spoke, small, hesitant. It was Mariah. "Sir, with my situation, if my bus runs late, or if I have to stop because of my pregnancy, what happens then?" Craig didn't hesitate. His voice cut like ice. "Then you better start running, sweetheart. You're not special. If you can't handle the pressure, the door's right there." The room went stiff. A few employees looked down. Others clenched their jaws. Elliot's heart thundered in his chest. He had tried to stay quiet, tried to just observe. But now it was personal. He stepped forward, fist clenched, voice shaking with restrained fury. "You ever stop and ask yourself how your people are even getting to work, Craig?" he said loudly. "How many of them are sleeping in cars just to keep this place running?" Craig turned, irritated. "Who the hell are you to question me, janitor? Sit down and shut up." But Elliot didn't flinch. He marched straight up to Craig, yanked off the dirty janitor's badge, and slammed it on the table. Then in one motion, he grabbed Craig by the collar and slapped him across the face. The room froze. "I bet you didn't see that coming. Hit subscribe so you never miss a shocking undercover story like this one." Craig stumbled back, stunned. Elliot's voice now echoed with authority. Fire. Decades of buried fury. "My name is Elliot Harris," he said, staring Craig down. "I built this company with my bare hands. I started with nothing, and I gave everything so people like Mariah could have something better than this." Everyone was silent, stunned. Mariah's eyes widened in disbelief. A few workers gasped. Elliot's face turned red, not with embarrassment, but with heartbreak. "You treat people like trash, Craig. You mock their struggles. You punish them for being human." He turned to the employees, voice cracking with emotion. "I became rich because of the sweat of people just like you. And I forgot what that meant. But I remember now." He turned back to Craig, voice cold as steel. "You're fired. Get your stuff and get the hell out." Craig opened his mouth, but no words came. His empire, his false authority, crumbled in seconds. As he stormed out, the workers erupted into whispers. Some smiled, others teared up. Elliot looked at Mariah and gently nodded. "This place will never treat you like that again. I promise." In the days that followed, Harris Tech felt like a different place. Elliot wasn't just changing policies, he was changing hearts. He didn't hand down orders from a corner office. He walked the warehouse floors. He sat in the break room. He listened to stories, to pain, to ideas that had long gone unheard. Then he acted. A new employee housing assistance program was launched for anyone facing hardship, no questions asked. Paid maternity leave was implemented, not as a favor but as a right. Sensitivity and leadership training became mandatory for every manager. No more barking orders, no more treating people like machines. An anonymous hotline was set up so employees could report abuse or mistreatment without fear of retaliation. And most importantly, a new culture was born, one rooted in respect, empathy, and human dignity. Elliot personally helped Mariah find a small apartment close to the hub. He sat with her, heard her story, and offered her more than just a title. He gave her a future. "You'll work at the front desk," he told her. "Same pay, full benefits, and breaks whenever you need them." She cried, not because she felt weak, but because for the first time in a long time, she felt seen. Before the big announcement from the CEO, I want to ask, if you enjoyed this story and want more, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're the first to know when we drop new videos. A week later, at a company-wide town hall, Elliot stood before hundreds of employees. No spotlight, no stage, just a microphone and a heart full of truth. His voice trembled, but not from fear. 30 years ago, I built this company with a wrench in one hand and a dream in the other, he said. But somewhere along the way, I let it become cold, mechanical, ruthless. He paused, looking out at the people who carried his dream forward each day. I don't care how old someone is, where they came from, what they look like, or what they're going through. Every person under this roof deserves respect. You never know what battle someone is fighting until you care enough to ask. There were tears. There were cheers. And for the first time in years, there was hope. Elliot stepped off the stage and into the crowd, not as a CEO, but as a man determined to rebuild his company the right way. Not with power, but with purpose. Today, Harris Tech isn't just back on its feet. It's alive. Not because of new policies or profits, but because one man chose to walk in silence, to feel the weight his people carried, and to right the wrongs he never saw before. It took a pregnant woman sleeping in her car under a streetlight to remind a company what it was built for. Not numbers, not titles, but people. Now Harris Tech remembers, and it will never forget again.